My parents divorced when I was about 2 years old. My mother, unfortunately, had to leave because she was fearing for her life. My dad was very abusive to her. She still tells me about this story that happened when I was a baby in her tummy. She said she was pregnant with me, and she was trying to escape. Got to this train station, and he found her. He found her. He put a knife into her belly and said, "Follow me now." And so she did. Terrifying encounter with him. She decided to go ahead and follow him. And 2 years later, after I was born, she's like, "I can't live in this kind of situation." So she decided to leave. And the problem with that was she never been to school, so she had no way of supporting herself. My mom and all her siblings never been to school. My grandparents never put them to school, so she had no way of taking care of me. And she finally found a nanny position in the city of Mohammedia where we lived. She found this doctor who needed someone to take care of his children and take care of their household and things like that. So she started working with him, but the problem was she had no one to watch me. And so she took me back to my grandparents. Her parents who lived in Marrakesh about 4 hours away, and said, "I need some help with Karima." It's me. And she said, "Well, can you watch her for me? I have no way of watching her because I have to work to support her." And so my grandmother said, "Yes, sure, we'll keep her with us." And so I grew up with my grandma. As you can see in the picture, my grandpa, my three aunts and 2 uncles. And what my mom didn't know is that this was going to be a very tough living for me. She didn't know what was going on, what was going to happen to me in my mother's house, but she started working. She would come in every couple of months, and then in 1981, she met my stepdad, who was from France. They got married. She couldn't take me with her. He was an engineer from France, and because of his job, he had to travel all the time, so they moved to France, and so I wasn't able to go with her. She said, "Well, since I never been to school, I want to make sure that you're in school. I want to make sure that you are educated." And so she left me with my grandparents and moved to France with my stepdad. And she would only come once a year to visit me. And that was very tough because I didn't have my dad, and now I didn't have my mom. My grandmother that I grew up with was very abusive. She started to hit me and my aunts, and she started making us do things that we didn't want to do. I was 7 years old, and I was asked at 4 o'clock in the morning to get up with my aunts and go to this market where they would sell produce, and we were asked to steal. And so we would go in with my aunts, and the oldest one would come up to the vendor and trying to distract him and say, "So how much is this and how much is that?" And my aunt and I, who was a little bit older than me, would steal and we put stuff in the bag. And if we didn't bring those bags full, we would get it. My grandmother was not, you could not say, "Well, I couldn't do it." You had to come in with a full bag or else you get it. And it was, the abuse was from pulling your hair to twisting your skin until it was bruised, to taking palm branches and hit you in the legs with it. It was a tough living for sure, but God had a plan for me.
Amen.
So my day in Morocco was getting up at 4 in the morning, doing this job. Then I would get home, I would have breakfast, I would go to school. About 12 o'clock, we would be dismissed. It was so hot in Morocco, it gets up to about like 120 degrees. There's no air conditioning, so you can just imagine the heat. So at 12 o'clock, they dismiss all the students, and you would come back about 3 o'clock when it cools off a little bit. So I would go home, I would eat some lunch, and then she would send me back out again. And my aunt and I, the youngest one, would go to the souk. The souk is a place where we, there's like a bunch of tourists and a bunch of souvenirs that you can buy. It's just like a big mall, but it's called the souk. And my aunt and I would go there and we would beg for money. We would wait for the tourists to come by. There would be like 20 of them or 30 of them at a time, and they would be from France, from the U.S., from Europe, from all kinds of countries. And as they would come through, we would just, my aunt and I would be like, can you help us? Can you give us some money? And we just beg for money. And that's what we did. And sometimes they were very nice, and sometimes not so much. There was times where they would spit on us. Sometimes they'll look at us and go, don't touch me, like we had some kind of disease or something. Sometimes we were called names. And it was tough because here I was, 7 years old, 8 years old sometimes, and didn't have a mom, didn't have a dad, lived in poverty, lived in abuse, and then you go out on the street and then you are treated like that again as a child, and it was very bad. This lady you see in the picture, she must have been a Christian, I don't know, I was Muslim then, but this lady that you see in the picture, she took us, not only she gave us money, but she took us to a bakery and said, let me buy you something. Let me buy you a little, what do you want? You want a chocolate cake? What do you want? And she bought us stuff. And those girls that you see with me, they were also beggars. They would also go and beg people for money. And that's just what we did. And then sometimes we got in trouble. There is security people, security guard undercover that walk the streets of the souk, and they don't want anyone to mess with the tourists because the tourist brings a lot of money in to Morocco. So they don't want anybody to talk to them, touch them, mess with them. And so one time I was walking with my aunt, and all of a sudden I feel someone just literally just put their foot right up between my legs from the back because I was walking and I didn't know what happened. But it was one of those guards. He saw me talk to a tourist. He didn't like the way I was messing with him, I guess, because I was begging for money, and he hit me. He hit me so hard. It was bad. I'm not going to go into details, but it was pretty bad. So then I would go back to school in the afternoon. I would get back home again. I would eat my dinner, and I would be sent out again with one of my aunts to steal again. And that was my day. That's how my day went for about 5 or 6 years. In 1986, the Lord had a plan all this time. In 1986, my mom met my stepdad, who was from France. And again, when she came, she would come in every year she would come in and visit me. And in 1986, they came down to visit, and we were doing some kind of celebration at home in my grandmother's house. My cousin was getting circumcised, and I was dancing, and all of a sudden, my grandmother got mad at me for some reason. She took my dress that I was wearing, and she just tore it. Well, my mom saw that. She was like, "Whoa, what are you doing? That's my daughter. What's going on?" So they got into it. They got into an argument, and that gave me the way to exit that house. My mother, she said, "You're not staying here. I'm taking you with me." So she grabbed me by the hand and took me out of that house. Thank you, Lord. And so the next day she took me to the embassy so I can get a passport. Well, the problem is she could not take me right away. She had to get permission from my dad. And so that was tough. So we had to go find him, and we took the train back to Mohammedia. When we showed up, we saw my grandmother, and my mom, she said, "I need to take Karima with me to France." And she said, I'm looking for Mohammed. That's my dad's name. And she said, "Well, he's not here." So we're expecting you to say, "Well, he's at work," or, he'll be here in a few minutes. She said, "Well, he passed away 2 years ago." And so we were in shock. We were like, so he passed away, no one said anything to me or to my mom. So even though it was a bad thing, it was actually a good thing. Things happen for a reason sometimes. If he did not pass away, I wouldn't be speaking to you today, because he would have never agreed for me to be here. He would have never signed his papers for me to exit Morocco. So my mom had full custody, took me to France, And I was so excited to be with her. But I want to share with you this verse very quickly. Romans 8:28. It says, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose." And I believe God had a plan for me all this time. So I moved to France. I was super excited to be with my mom. I finally had a bed to sleep in because in Morocco we had nothing. We slept on the floor. I walked to school 4 miles every day. We had no TV, we didn't have anything. We had no hot water in the house. So you can imagine, no showers. We didn't shower. But we did have bathhouses. So once a week, we would go to this bathhouse. They had one for men, one for women. And you take your buckets, you take your bathroom stuff, you take your change of clothes, and you walk into this bathhouse. And you would think that when you walk in, you see all these naked people, you're just like, what's going on? But you don't, because you don't know any better. And just a bunch of naked ladies, all doing the same thing. You come in there with your thing, and you just sit somewhere, and you get your water. And there was no showers. You just get your bucket of water, you sit down, and you just wash off. And everybody, hey, you want me to scrub your butt? Come here, I'll scrub your butt for you. It was like hanging out at the gym, like, hey, how you doing? Hey. There was no shame at all in seeing each other naked, which was really weird, but that's how I grew up. Anyway, so I was very excited to finally be in France and be able to take a shower and be able to brush my teeth and everything else that I couldn't do in Morocco. The challenge in France was the fact that because I was Arabic, I spoke Arabic, I did not know any French. So here I am in this country, not speaking the language. I was put into the school system. No one said, hey, let's help this girl, because she doesn't speak the language, let's help her. Nobody said anything. So I was in the class, the teacher was speaking, I have no clue what she's saying. I mean, I write from right to left. Now I have to write from left to right. And I don't know what she's talking about. And my mother couldn't help me because she never been to school. My dad wasn't around because he traveled. And it was tough because I didn't do too well in school. I was one of the best in my class in Morocco, but unfortunately when I moved to France, I started failing my classes. I didn't pass the first year, I didn't pass the second year, and then the third year I was too old to be in that class. So I couldn't be in that class because I was too old, I couldn't go forward because I was too young. So they put me in this intermediate class where it's all hands-on stuff and you just build stuff. So I was in that class for a year, and then I had to make a decision what to do with my life. When I was young in Morocco, I had dreams to do great things, but that didn't work out for me. So I decided to be a hairstylist. I went to technical college and started to do the best that I can so I can pass my school. The school, the technical college, in order to be a hairstylist, you have to go in for 3 years. After 2 years, you can take a test, and if you pass, you pass. If you don't, you don't. But so after 2 years, I passed the test. I was 18 years old, and I don't know how I did it. Don't ask me. I think that God had His hands on me that whole time, because for me to pass something like that and not speaking the language, I don't know how I did it. But I'm just grateful that I did. We went to Paris. My boss at the time and all my colleagues, we all went to Paris. They have this huge hair show in Paris every year. As I was walking, we were walking the booths, this man looks at me and he goes, hey, do you want to go to America? And I'm thinking, yeah, this guy is going to put me on the streets or something. I don't want to go to America. Now, that was my dreams to be in America, because when you're in France, TV is all about French shows. Soap operas, Dallas, whatever, Santa Barbara, all the shows. Michael Jackson, that was my favorite. I grew up listening to American music, singing with American people. I have no clue what I was saying. I think I was just mimicking what they were saying. But this to be in America was my dream, that I never ever thought I would be here today. So it's just amazing to me. Till this day, I wake up and I'm like, I just don't know how I am here, but thank you, God, So the guy asked me to, he said, do you want to go? And I said, well, I would love to, but he said, well, I have 5 hair salons, and I'm looking for 25 hairstylists to come to the U.S. with me, and in an exchange program. And I said, well, yeah, and I'm thinking in my mind, I just came out of school, I am a nobody, I don't even know how to cut hair yet, there's no way he's gonna pick me. He said, just fill out this application, and if you get picked, we'll call you. 3 days later, I got called. You are going to America for 1.5 years. Just brings me chills just to talk about that. I called my mom, I said, Mom, I'm gonna go to America, and she's like, yeah, right. I'm like, no, I am, seriously, I am. So my dad helped me to get my passport, to get my stuff, and I was terrified because I'm young, I'm 18 years old, and I'm leaving, France and starting all over again, not speaking the language again. But what really got me was to leave my mom behind one more time, because I just finally got to live with her. I only been with her 6 years. But there's this Bible verse again, Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, plans to give you hope in the future. And I believe God had a plan for me. So I had to take the leap of faith and come to the U.S. I got here when I was 18. I was put in Washington, D.C., big change from the small village of France that I came from. Didn't speak the language. I managed to, learn a little bit. And after 7 months, I met someone who was in the military. We got married very quickly, and we moved to Texas. He was in school there, a dental school there, just temporarily for about 6 months. And 3 months after we got married, he started being abusive. He started with a slap, then he started with a name calling, then he started with a push, then he started with choking. And the fact that I didn't speak the language made it tough. The fact that I didn't have any family here made it tough. So here I am thinking, okay, I'm going to meet someone, I'm going to fall in love, I'm going to get married, it's going to be great. And I found myself in a bad situation. We moved to Alabama, and I kept asking him, I'm like, why? Why are you doing this? Why are you hitting me? Like, I didn't do anything to you. And he's like, I'm sorry. And he would apologize, and he would cry, and he would hit me again, and he would apologize, and he would cry again. And I didn't understand, well, how can someone love you and treat you like that? Treat you just like a dog. A dog probably was treated better than I was, but there was no relations, there was no intimacy. I was constantly put down, called ugly, called all kinds of names. Sorry. And then one day, I cried a lot because it was tough. I didn't have anyone around to talk to. And then one day I was crying on the couch, as I did every night, and a sermon came up, which I didn't know at the time it was a sermon. I didn't do anything about Jesus then. But this man was sharing his message, and then he said, just bow your head and pray with me. And so I did. I didn't know what I was saying, but I did. And I think that was the first seed that was planted in my heart. God planted that seed in my heart, and it got so bad in that relationship that I went down to 90 pounds. I turned to drinking. I started drinking every night to put myself to sleep. It was tough. I didn't want to be like that, and I didn't know who this person was really, because I would look in the mirror and I'm like, oh, who is this? Why is this happening to me? I didn't understand it. But one day I was working at the hair salon, and all of a sudden my heart went off, and it was doing about 250. And I didn't know what the feeling was. I never had the tachycardia before. And the customer that was in my chair, he said, you need to go to the emergency room. And I said, well, no, I'll probably be all right. He's like, no, you need to go to the emergency room. This is bad. So I was terrified for him to take me, because I was like, if my husband sees me with this guy, my ex-husband sees me with this guy, he's going to kill me. But I had to go. So I went ahead and went with him. He took me to the emergency room. As soon as I got there, they couldn't slow down my heart. So the lady said, I'm sorry, but we're going to have to stop it. we're gonna have to inject you with this product, and it's gonna slow it down, and then eventually it's gonna stop it, and you're gonna feel something. So she did. They put this stuff in my vein. I could feel the pressure in my left side, in my neck, in my head. All of a sudden it went into my heart, and I just, there was nothing there to breathe. There was nothing coming out. And the pain, I can't even describe it. It finally came back, and I got back to my senses, and I was like, this is my wake-up call. I need to either leave this relationship, I'm gonna die. This guy's gonna kill me. Either he's gonna kill me, or I'm gonna die from the stress, from throwing up every day, from crying every night, from just this, just living this destruction. There was nothing good about me. My mind was destroyed, my body was destroyed, and it was awful. So I finally grew the courage to say that I'm done. I'm going to get divorced. I didn't want to, but I needed to leave. And he said, well, if you leave me, I'm going to kill you. And I said, that's okay. Then you just do what you have to do, but I'm going to leave. I can't live like this. So I did. The Lord gave me the strength to leave that marriage. It was tough for a while because he followed me, and I had to get eventually a restraining order against him to leave me alone. But God took him away from me. He got him stationed in Germany and got him away from me. So praise the Lord for that. In 2001, I met my Superman, the picture you saw earlier. And the reason I call my husband my Superman is because he proposed to me on the globe in Savannah as Superman. This man he's a godsend. He's a good Christian man that God blessed me with. He met me, and even though I was a nobody really, and I didn't dress up like I should. I smoked, I drank, hanged out in the clubs. I was really, he shouldn't even be looking at me, to be honest with you, but he did. But God sent him in my life for a reason, and not only he married me and treats me like I should be treated, but he also helped me find Jesus. So we went to church together. He invited me to go to his church. And as I was sitting there, all this time in my life, I've always been looking for peace. Never had peace in Morocco, never had peace in France, and certainly didn't have it in my first marriage. And I just wanted to be loved. I wanted to be, treated like I should be treated. And when I was at church that day, there was something that came over me. I think it was the Holy Spirit. I felt this peace, and I just felt amazing, and I didn't know what it was. So I went home that day, and I'm like, what was that? I don't understand. What was that feeling? So I kept going back to church, and I kept feeling it again and again. And my husband wanted to marry me, and he said, well, we need to talk to my pastor because I want him to marry us. And he said, well, what religion is she? And he said, well, she's Muslim, even though I didn't practice Muslim religion. The thing is, when you're born in Morocco, in a Muslim country, you are born into the religion. There is no, we're Christians, we're going to go to church, and when our children are ready to accept Jesus, they can accept Jesus. It's not like that. It's, you are Muslim from the time you open your eyes, and you're going to do everything that you're told. And the thing is about Muslim religion and the Christian religion, there is two differences. The Muslim religion is all about doing. I'm going to pray 5 times a day. I'm going to do the Ramadan once a year, 1 month a year. I'm going to do certain things in order to go to heaven. It's not like that with Jesus. Jesus is amazing. He's amazing. Jesus loves us just the way we are. We don't have to do a thing except accept him. And it's a love relationship. He says, come to me just like you are. Just come to me. It's okay if you were drinking. It's okay if you were smoking. It's okay if you did the things you did. I love you, and I'm going to take those things away from you. And he did. He cleansed me.
Amen.
So after a while, after the Lord was after me for a while, and the pastor, he wasn't going to marry us because I was Muslim and my husband was Christian. But after many prayers, my husband said, I'm not going to force you to be a Christian. That is your decision to make. I'm not going to make that decision for you. I'm going to marry you no matter what. I love you, but I want you to make the decision for yourself. And after thinking about it and seeing the seeds that people have planted in my heart along the way, I decided to accept Jesus into my heart and become a Christian. And let me tell you, it's the best thing ever. Oh my goodness. Jesus is the father that I never had. Jesus is the husband that I've always wanted. I'm sorry. It's just so emotional because he loves us so much, and we don't have to change a thing. We can come just the way we are, and he says, just come to me. I will be here for you. I'm going to guide you. I'm going to love you. I'm going to protect you. And there's just nothing better than Jesus. There's just nothing. No money in the world, nobody, nothing can give you the peace and the purpose that he gives us. Absolutely nothing. I can still see to this day, I can still see to this day God's work in my hand, in my life, I'm sorry. Recently, when I was in that abusive relationship, I didn't feel beautiful, as you know. I was 90 pounds, it's kind of hard to feel beautiful at that weight. I was very unhealthy, and I thought by maybe putting breast implants inside my body, that it would give me some, I would feel better about myself. I would possibly even change my life and change my marriage, but I didn't do any of that. So I did put in breast implants in when I was in my 20s. 13 years later, after I got married and I had my children, I breastfed both of them, and things didn't look like they should. And I decided to do my implants. I went in and I got them redone. I got silicone breast implants put in. I should have really took them out then, but I didn't. I guess my self-esteem wasn't all there yet. But I got them in, and 4 years later, I started getting extremely sick. I started having vertigo, tachycardia attacks, hair loss. I started being very tired and had all kinds of health issues, unexplained health issues. I started having burning on my left side, and I thought I had back problems. So I went to the doctor for my back. I started having bladder problems. Went to OB/GYN, nothing. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. So 2 years going through these symptoms, nobody could figure out what was wrong with me. Nobody. And I just kept on praying. I'm like, please, Lord, please, just help me. Help me find out what to do. What is going on with me? I know there's something wrong with me. And I went to see my surgeon who put the implants in. I said, there's something going on. I'm having some hardness on top left. He said, oh, it's no big deal. Sometimes when we put implants in, the scar tissue that forms around the implant to protect you, because the thing is implants are a foreign object in your body, and your body is going to protect you by forming this scar tissue around it. The scar tissue should be soft. In my case, it was hard, and it started pulling the breast implant up. The pain was awful. It was like someone putting their hand on your chest and squeezing as hard as they can and pulling it up 24/7. It was absolutely, the pain was absolutely awful. But I told him what was going on, and he said, I can go in, I can cut the scar tissue, and it will release the implant, and you should be fine. It still didn't feel right to me. I said, there's something else. So I started looking online, looking up my symptoms, and I found all these ladies that had all kinds of symptoms like me, and sickness with lupus and Hashimoto's and all these diseases. And they were like, I have breast implants and I'm sick and my implants made me sick. And I'm like, oh my gosh, maybe it is my implants. So after much prayer, I was praying one day and crying and asking God for help. And I came up on the verse, Philippians 1:13, that says, for you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. And I will praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I actually have this verse in my daughter's room because I want her to know that how beautiful she is, just the way she is. But when I read this, I thought, I don't need these things. I don't need it. This is not my identity. My identity is not in my breast or the size of my hiney or how long my hair is or what I look like. My identity is in Christ. You know, He made me just the way He wants me to be. And I don't need these things. And it was hard to depart from them because for a long time they were a part of me, you know, because I had them for like over 20 years. So I told my husband, I said, I'm gonna get them out. And so I did. I got them out. And when they came out, one of them was raptured. It was yellow. And it's been raptured for a long time. And that was making me sick. The toxicity from this breast implant was going through my body, making me ill, and making my body inflamed on the inside. And as soon as they took him out, my burning stopped immediately. The next day, my energy came back, and I started seeing, like, you know, my body coming back to normal. And if it wasn't for the Lord, again, saving me from the mess I put myself into, I would have never known, and I would have never took him out. And so, prayers work, and it's been 5 years now since I took him out, and I feel amazing. I feel even more beautiful than I did before, just because I know that I am the way God made me to be, and I don't need anything else. I don't need to put any plastic mess in my body to feel beautiful. So the takeaway from this is, friends, I want you to know that the Lord loves you, that you are valued, that you are beautiful just the way you are. Don't be afraid to take chances. If I never took the leap of faith of leaving France and coming to the U.S., I wouldn't be here today. I would have never known about Jesus because I never heard about Jesus. Even though I was in France and I was surrounded by churches, nobody told me about Jesus. Even though I grew up in a home with my stepdad who was Catholic and had Christmas and Easter, I didn't know about Jesus. So don't be afraid to take chances. And also, don't be afraid to take chances in love and give it a second chance if you've been in a bad relationship before, because God has blessed me with an amazing husband. And if I didn't take that chance for a long time, I didn't have nothing to do with men. After I was treated the way I was treated, I wanted to actually go back home to France because I just didn't feel like I should be here. But God had a plan for me. And now, with everything that's happened, I want to share my stories. I wanted to inspire other people, to encourage other people, and to just let you know that you are loved just the way you are, and don't change a thing. Thank you so much. If you have any questions for me, I am open to any questions you may have, and if you don't feel like asking them now, you can ask me later, it's fine too. Yes.
When did you learn English?
When I came to the U.S., when I was in Washington, D.C., I just started picking up words, which was actually funny that you asked that, because English is pretty tough language, and so many words are the same, which is not a good thing. So one day I was cutting hair. I was in Alabama, and this lady was in my chair. It was a beautiful weekend, and we lived close to the beach, obviously, because Alabama is right there at the border of Florida. And I said, oh, it is going to be a beautiful weekend this weekend. Are you going to go to the bee this weekend? The B word. I thought I was saying the beach, but I was saying the bad word. She said, do what? I said, yeah, it's a beautiful weekend. Are you going to the bee this weekend? She said, I think you're saying the wrong word. I mean the beach. I said, oh yes, the beach, yes, the beach. And then I got in trouble again. I was cutting this guy's hair one day, and I said, I think, so how short do you want your eyebrows? And he said, my eyebrows? I don't want you to touch my eyebrows. I said, but they're very long. I need to cut your eyebrows for you. He said, ma'am, you're not touching my eyebrows. I said, but look how long they are. He said, those are sideburns. I'm like, oh, I am so sorry. I need sideburns. So yeah, I had my challenges of the English language, but I never been to school. I actually went with TV, to be honest with you. I just watched a lot of shows, and now I've been here 30 years, and I am called the Moroccan redneck. That's my name. So, another thing too, in Alabama, I remember it was funny because at the salon, again, people would come in, and every time I would hear an American word, I would go to my dictionary, and I'm like, okay, I need to know what this little word is. And then it would register in my head, and I would go to the next one, and that's how I learned. Well, one day, a lot of ladies would come through the salon, and they're like, hey, y'all. And I'm like, what does that mean? So I was looking in my dictionary, and I'm like, okay, that word is not in this dictionary. What does that mean? So I finally one day I said, what does hey, y'all mean? It is not in my dictionary. I can't find it. She said, oh, that means hey, you all. Oh, okay. All right, and that was, after that, after I started saying it myself, that's when I was called the Moroccan redneck. That was my nickname for Moroccan in Alabama. So. Any questions? Yes?
Well, I kind of feel where I'm from the north, so when I moved down here, I had to learn the southern language.
Did you?
But how far did you get in your education?
Well, I didn't go too far, obviously, because like I said, when I was in Morocco, I left when I was 12. And when I came to France, I think they put me either in the 6th or 7th grade, I'm not really sure, because there's differences in each school between Morocco, France, and the US. And so I never went anywhere when I was in France because I failed both years. I just wish that someone took me in, like people do here in the US. You guys have such an amazing education system here. I know there's people complain about that, but you have no clue how wonderful it is, because I know that there's counselors in your schools, and there's people helping other people who are struggling, and I wish someone took me in and said, let me help you learn the language. Nobody did. I didn't know what the teacher was saying, and it was tough, so I couldn't pass even if I wanted to. I had the desire to do well. I wanted to do well. I had dreams. I wanted to be a flight attendant. I wanted to do all kinds of stuff, and maybe even be a pilot one day, but God had different plans. But I did manage, like I said, to go to the technical college and get my license to be a hairstylist. And I don't know how I did that. Till this day, I'm like, I don't know how I did that. But God had to be with me there too, so He had a plan all along. And every bad thing I went through, if I have to go through it all to be here today, I would do it again. Because He made me who I am today. So.
What languages do your children speak?
They actually only speak English. My husband, he's like, talk to them in French, but it's so hard. It's so hard to to do that translation, because all I hear is English all day. I live in America, so it's hard for me to, teach them French, but they are taking that in school as a second language, so I'm able to help with that a little bit. Yes, ma'am?
Have you had the opportunity to witness to your family and friends?
Yes, I do. Actually, when I became a Christian, I told my mom, and she said, oh, no, you can't be Christian. You're Moroccan, you're Muslim. That's who you are. And I didn't really understand how to explain that to her either, because as I was saying earlier, when you're in Morocco, you are Muslim, and that's all you are. There's nothing else. And so I had to eventually just kind of pray about it and think about it, and I came back and I said, Mom, I love you. But I said, once I realized that Christianity was first, another thing too, when I was in Morocco, our year was different. And I didn't understand why the year was different from French year. I was like, why is Moroccan people only, their year is like 500 when the year in France is 2000, or 1999, whatever it was at that time. I didn't understand it, but that's because the Muslim religion came after Christianity, and I didn't know that, But when I realized that, I told my mom, I said, Mom, I found this God. His name is Jesus. And the Bible says, I am the first and I am the last. And anyone who comes after me is all good, right? So I said, I found this God who loves me for who I am, and I'm going to follow him. And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to disown you, I'm not trying to be mean, but I said, if I die today, you cannot save me. I said, as much as you love me, you can't save me. You can't save me, no one can save me. The only one who can save me and intercede for me is Jesus Christ. So, like I said, I thought because I was Moroccan, I had to be Muslim. But you don't. You don't have to be what your family is. This is between you and God. No one is going to be right there at the door and say, Lord, can you let her in? She's my daughter. Nobody. This is your relationship between you and God. And, and don't feel bad if I felt bad for a long time because I thought because my family was Muslim, I had to be, but I don't have to be. That's just a religion. I'm always going to be Moroccan. That's where I grew up. That's where I was born. But I'm also a proud American. I became an American citizen, and that was a great honor as well. So, any other questions?
For someone that's in a abusive relationship or something, what advice would you give to them?
Yes. If you're in an abusive relationship, please find someone to talk to, a close friend. I didn't tell anybody. Nobody knew I was in an abusive relationship. And the thing is this guy, he was so good. He was so nice to everybody, but not to me. He was a nice guy outside, and he was a monster inside the house, and nobody knew. So if you are, and I know it's scary, because when I was in that relationship, I was so scared for my life. I was scared he was going to do something to me. I didn't want to say anything to anybody. Also, because it was military, and I was afraid if I told someone he hit me, he would get kicked out of the military, and his career would be over. And I didn't want that for him. When I left, I said, you can have it all. You can have the house. You can have everything. I just want to leave. I just want to leave. That's all I want. I don't want anything from you. So please, if you're in that relationship, that kind of relationship, pray, seek help, find someone to counsel you together. If he's a Christian and he's willing to go to counseling, get some counseling. Mine wasn't a Christian. He cussed God. He talked bad about God. And that was another thing that really terrified me. So I didn't have that. But tell someone, just a friend, just say, hey, this is going on, would you pray with me? And let that person carry you through what's going on. Don't do it by yourself. It will kill you from the inside out, like it almost killed me. I was throwing up acid every day, just because I wasn't eating. I was smoking, I was drinking, don't do that to yourself. Why? Our bodies are a temple. We need to take care of our bodies. Don't let any man tell you that you're not worthy. You are worthy. You are beautiful. The only man that matters is Jesus. We are all sinners, right? We're all sinners and fall short of the glory of God. And man will fail you. Man will do things to disappoint you. I love my husband. We've been married 21 years. But our marriage is not perfect, and it never will be. We try every day to do our best of our abilities to come together and work together and compromise and love each other and be honest with each other. And it's work. It takes work, But sometimes we disappoint each other. Sometimes we let each other down. But the person that will never do that is Jesus. He's always available to you. He's right there. He can talk to you anytime you want. He's there. Why wouldn't you want to take that? He's the best counselor, the best father, the best of all, really. Yes, ma'am.
So when did you become a U.S. citizen?
I actually became a U.S. citizen 17 years ago. I I was pregnant with my son, and to begin with, I wasn't going to. I don't know why. I was like, oh, well, I'll live here. It's fine. But then I realized, well, I'm about to have children, and God forbid something happens and they send all the immigrants out of the country. What do? You know, I want to be here for my kids, and also this is my home, and I love being here, and I'm so grateful to be here. So.
Where did you meet your husband and how did y'all end up in Georgia?
Well, actually, I moved to Georgia when I got out of that abusive relationship. I met someone else who was in the military. He was a pilot, and he moved me here to Georgia. And we dated for a couple of years. He didn't want to get serious, and that was fine. And he was a nice guy, but he didn't want to commit, and I had to walk away from that. And so, but I met my husband, Roger, at the gym at the YMCA. He came in, and I was like, "Whoa, hey!" Well, you see big buff guys all the time at the gym, and there was something about him. There was just something about him. And I told myself, I said, I will never marry a man who had children. And I met him, and he had 2 kids. He was divorced previously, and I was like, I don't care if this guy has 10 kids. I don't care. Well, I don't care. But he was just a really, you could just tell he was genuinely just a nice man. He had a good heart. He was a Christian, and and the way, and he is who he is because of God. There's nothing else, and he'll tell you himself. He's like, I was no good, and God made me who I am, and so he's a really good guy. So, yeah. Any questions?
Did you say you have siblings? Or no?
Oh, I do?
Yeah.
I do. I have 2 sisters.
Okay.
They're younger than me. They're my half-sisters. Well, they are my sisters, but they are my half-sisters. What was weird was my mom, when she moved to France and I was in Morocco, she was trying to have children, and she didn't. She had 2 miscarriages. And as soon as she brought me with her, bam, 2 kids. I think it was just stress, I think it was just anxiety for her. But as soon as I was with her, she was able to have two little girls, and I'm just blessed to have my sisters. They're really sweet. They're older now, of course. They have their own families, but yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Do you still have a relationship with your grandparents if they're still alive?
Yes. So my grandmother that I grew up with, that was abusive, she actually passed away a while back. I lost my grandpa a long time ago before then. But one thing I realized about my grandmother that I didn't know when I was a kid. She didn't have a life when she was a kid herself. She was married when she was like 14 years old to an older man. And, and then she had 8 kids. She actually had more than 8 kids. She had 12 kids, I'm sorry. 4 of them died. She had 2 sets of twins that died. And she had the 8 kids with my mom. So I think part of her anger and bitterness that I grew up around, I think she didn't know how to deal with all that stuff. She was a child, and they had her married, and she never had a childhood. And I think a lot of it came from all that, from what happened to her. She was just a very angry person. And you see her, she's the sweetest thing. It's like, how can grandma be like that? And she was just so hurt, and the only way she knew how is to hurt others. She had hurt all of us. All her children had to lie to her. They couldn't tell her the truth. And I'm like, why? Why do we have to live like this? And I remember to this day, my aunts and I, we didn't have anything in Morocco. We didn't have any toys or anything like that growing up. And all we had was belly dancing. I started belly dancing from the time I was little. And we would tell jokes. That was our thing. That's all we had. But we would be in a room talking, trying to get a little break away from grandma. And then we hear her shoes. Everything is style, and you can hear. And we're like, oh, here she comes. Let's hide. But we called her the Colonel. She was a little thing, but she was a powerhouse. One funny story. I'm going to share this with you. You're gonna like this. So when I just got married to my husband, my Superman, we went to Morocco to meet her. And she just fell in love with him, of course. he's a good-looking guy. But so she saw him, and I was translating. She was saying, tell him this, and he was like, yeah. Huh? And then she said, she was telling him, she said, well, I raised 8 kids and Karima, and I breastfed everybody, and this is all that's left. Boop! And we were like, she fluffed whatever was left out of her dress, rotten dress. She said, this is all I have left. And we were like, oh my gosh, he's in Morocco, he's in a Muslim country. The lady's supposed to be covered, and she is plucking her breast out. And he didn't know what to do. We didn't know what to do. We were like, please put it back. Please put it back. Oh my gosh. He said, well, that was something. I said, yeah, sure. So then the same trip, she was going to bed. In Morocco, there were a lot of layers. And my grandmother was older, so she covered up a lot. So she had like layers of clothes, like 3 layers of clothing. And she was going to bed, so she took 2 of the layers off, and she did not wear bras. And underwear were not her thing. She wore like the big old underwear, like with the elastics right here, like in the old times. That's what she wore. So she gets in front of her room, and we're about to tell her goodnight. Out of respect, we kiss her hand, we kiss her head, because she's the colonel. So I come up, and I look down, and she had a see-through dress with nothing underneath. And so he was behind me, and I'm like, good night, Mui, and I kiss her hand, and I turn around, I'm like, whatever you do, don't look down. And then what does he do? Look down. So he's like, why didn't you tell me? I said I did. He said, now this is gonna be like in my head for the rest of my life. Thanks tonight. Oh my gosh. Fun times. Anyway, any other questions?
Are you still cutting hair?
No, ma'am. I actually sold. I had a hair salon, and when I had my son 16 years ago, I sold it. So I decided to be home and take care of our children. We prayed about it, and it was just the best thing for us to do because I didn't have any family here to take care of my kids, and we had no choice but for me to stay home and take care of them. So.
Tell them the names of your kids.
Yeah, Zachariah. My son Zachariah, he's 16, and Priscilla is 14. And then we also have 2, my husband had 2 kids before that, and they're adults. They're grown up out of the house. And we have grandkids now. So, little ones running around. But yeah, so God is good. God is good. Any questions?
All right. Let's give her a hand.